Welcome to it then, Racing Post Ringside, your boxing betting preview show. The big fight on Saturday night, Wembley Stadium, the rematch, Oleksandr Uysk against Daniel Dubois. And we've got some of the finest boxing betting brains in the business to help you find a bet or two on Saturday's card. Henry Hardwicke and Gareth Freeman join us. Henry, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Dave. Really looking forward to Saturday night, Wembley Stadium. Should be a cracking heavyweight fight, so yeah, really looking forward to the action.
And Gareth, you guys gave the viewers a good steer on the Eubank Ben fight, both plumbing for Eubank. What are your thoughts, original thoughts on this fight just in general? We've seen it once already.
Yeah. No, I think it should be a good one, this. I'm expecting a bit more from Dubois at the start. I watched the first fight again the other day just to, sort of remember where we were and how we sort of got here. And that first couple of rounds, he was a bit cagey. This time, he's saying he's going to come out, make Usyk look like an old man straight away. So I'm hoping we get action right from the off.
Well, seamlessly. We'll talk about the original fight then. We are just shy of 2 years from the original fight between these two. Usyk tossed the IBF belt in the bin since then, but of course, Dubois is a different animal now, Henry. 2 years ago, there was lots going on in that fight. It was quite a controversial one, whether you regard it as a low blow or not. Usyk given the 4 minutes, but eventually getting the job done. What do we learn from that first fight? Is a key line of form heading into this fight.
Yeah, I think Usyk, we already knew that he was the standout heavyweight of the generation, and I think that still stands true. I don't think you can argue that visually Dubois put in his best performance last time out against Anthony Joshua of his career. But I think he, in the first fight between them, I think Usyk was a comfortable winner. I personally think it was a low blow, and I think that's maybe a little bit of a red herring to make you feel like Dubois was more competitive and more dangerous than he actually was. I think it was one-way traffic from the whole fight, and Usyk, he was obviously not a huge one punch power specialist in the heavyweight division, but he was so much better than Dubois. He was able to stop him late on in the fight, and I think it was clear going into the fight that Usyk was the better fighter, and I think it was clear coming out of it that he's comfortably better than Dubois.
Well, Henry's kicks us off with the low blow chat there, Gareth. What were your thoughts on the fight? Was it a low blow or not? And I suppose if you're in Team Dubois here, you're taking from that, low blow or not, the positive is that Daniel certainly showed that he could hurt Usyk, didn't he, in that fight?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I completely agree with Henry. I think it was a low blow. Like I say, I watched it a couple of days ago just sort of on a repeat, and the commentary team didn't see it as controversial at the time. You watch it, it's pretty much on the bell, isn't it? So it's but like you say, he knows he can hurt him. I don't think he did know he could hurt him until that point, and he'd been kind of cagey before. So this time, he's got that knowledge that he can, if he lands a shot, he knows he can take him down. It's just whether he can land it or not.
Henry's a bit of context here. Obviously, we'll all be cheering the Brit on. I'm going to be them lucky enough to get a ticket for Saturday night. But what are we looking at in the opposite corner here? We're looking at a generational great. This is a guy who was undisputed at cruiserweight, now undisputed at heavyweight, and he's just seamlessly strolled through the best of Britain.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, beat everyone that he had to beat in the cruiserweight division, become undisputed champion, moved up to heavyweight. Obviously, there were doubts over his size and strength in that division, and would he be able to take the power of in the big hitting ranks? But every challenge that's been asked him, he's passed it, and not only just passed it, he's passed it with flying colours. I mean, I think there's no doubt that he's the best heavyweight at the moment, and he's certainly one of the best of all time in my eyes.
Right, let's have a look at the tale of the tape then, because there is 11 years between these two. Usyk 38, he was 38 in January. Dubois 27. How they will match up stylistically, which we saw 2 years ago. Usyk a southpaw, Dubois orthodox. The height, Dubois got 2 inches in at 6'5" versus Usyk at 6'3". And the reach is exactly the same here. Records, well, Usyk, a highly decorated amateur, only 23 professional fights, 14 knockouts, undefeated, of course. And Dubois, 22 wins, 21 knockouts, and, of course, 2 losses on his record. And Gareth, we are looking at an improved Dubois since his losses, not just his loss to Usyk, of course, his loss previous to that. He just strolled into the ring, Wembley Stadium against AJ, and he just put it on him from the start.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? I mean, you've got to give Dubois credit. I love a good comeback story, and against Joe Joyce, he took a lot of abuse after that because there was sort of the suggestion that he quit. It's a bad injury. It's a fair enough call that he stopped, but he came back and he put some wins together, got himself into like world title contention. That gave him the shot at Usyk, and then Usyk's kind of one of those fighters. You fight him and people that fought him before, they change. They're not the same afterwards. And I think that's happened to Dubois as well. But whereas guys like Joshua and like before that Murat Gassiev, they're just not the same. Dubois sort of used that as a mode to improve further, and he kicked on from there. And he's upset wins over like Hrgovic, and then like you say, he just destroyed Joshua, didn't he? So he's got to come into this confident. Like it's got to be a better version of Dubois.
That run since the first fight, Henry, Jarrell Miller, 10th round TKO, Hrgovic, 10th round TKO, and then that destruction of Joshua, which was at Wembley as well, which surely is going to stand him in good stead because we're back there again.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue with the performance. Visually, it was seriously impressive from Dubois, but I think you can have a little bit of doubts over the standard of the form. I mean, AJ had twice been beaten up by Usyk prior to fighting Dubois. AJ's most recent fight, before he went in against Dubois, was that novelty bout against Francis Ngannou. I think there's every chance that AJ may well be finished. So how strong that actual form is, although it was very visually impressive, is open for doubt. The wins over Hrgovic and Miller were certainly decent, but I think both of those fighters are clearly below the level of Usyk, and I think that form is also way below Usyk's best form. So I'm sure Dubois will be confident, and he's a dangerous fighter because he is so powerful, he's strong, he is big. But we see a couple of years ago the outcome of the first fight between the pair, and I don't think that Dubois has made the necessary improvements to close the gap on Usyk.
And just a final word on Usyk before we dive into the betting here, Gareth. There's a very famous quote from Tony Bellew when he stepped into the ring with him at cruiserweight. And he just said the guy's relentless. He was at his best for 4 rounds, but he tires you out even when he's not throwing punches. We are looking at, the sweet science, hit and don't get hit, the footwork, everything.
Yeah, you are, man. I mean, it's like you say, it's sort of he makes you miss and makes you pay. But it's that southpaw stance where he's got his front foot is pushing you back. He's pushing you back with his foot, but he's sort of moving away from your shots himself, and with the pendulum as well. It's like he's moving in 4 different directions at the same time. It's confusing watching it. I can't imagine sort of standing opposite him, trying to land on him. That's what Dubois got to do this weekend. How he does it, I've got no idea.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. You'll be able to watch it on Saturday night. Of course, the action is live on DAZN pay-per-view. Thinking that the ring walk for the main event is going to be about 10 p.m. And the card's probably going to kick off about 7. So that's how you can watch it. Let's have a look at the betting then and how they shape up. Just to win this bout, Usyk 4-11, Dubois 3s, the draw at 22-1. If you want to get a little bit more adventurous with some of the betting here, Usyk on points, around about 2-1, Dubois 12-1. Stoppage, Usyk 5-4, which we saw in the first fight, 21-5, I think was top price I could find about Dubois. A couple of other interesting prices in there. Dubois to score a knockdown 5-2. Usyk to score a knockdown 4-6. Will the fight go the distance? 8-13 versus 11-8. No and yes there. Obviously with no being the favourite, so 8-13 that we don't go the distance here. How will they shape up here then, Henry? I mentioned it as a puncher against the boxer, southpaw against orthodox. We saw it in the first fight. How do you, without giving away your prediction on the end result, how do you see this fight going early doors?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that Dubois is going to need to put pressure on Usyk and land power shots, isn't it? I mean, you remember going back to the first fight between Joshua and Usyk, the crowd were almost willing Joshua on to get close to Usyk and land on him. And whether Joshua, didn't have the the abilities to do that, or Usyk was too good for him. Either way, he wasn't able to close the gap. He wasn't able to land the shots. But that is obviously Dubois' best avenue to success. If the fight goes to points, it's very difficult to see Dubois win it. So I think he's going to have to try and close the gap. Just so you're talking about betting, Dave, what's actually quite interesting is Usyk was 1-9 and Dubois was 7-1 for the first fight 2 years ago. So it's now sort of 4-11, 3-on and 3-1. So between those two fights, Usyk has twice beaten Tyson Fury. So we certainly haven't seen any downgrade in Usyk's level. Dubois was obviously put in the very good performances against Hrgović, Miller and Joshua. So, are we really thinking that Dubois has improved that much since the first fight to go from a 7-1 chance to a 3-1 chance? I'm not so sure. I think the betting is quite interesting in that respect. But yeah, I think, Usyk will look to stay out of trouble, and he's a very elusive fighter. He's a southpaw, very difficult to hit. I don't see Dubois being able to get close enough and being able to hit him. I don't think he's quite got the skills to be able to do that. So I think Usyk looks to control this fight. And I think he probably can win it however he wants, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw the same question to you, Gareth, because, there's quotes from Usyk saying, the biggest test he's had at heavyweight was Derek Chisora, and when AJ fought him, like Henry said, all the chat, particularly in the rematch, was you got to put it on him. You got to punch holes in him, put a dent in him early doors. And that's easier said than done, right?
Yeah. I mean, totally agree with Henry. I think that's sort of going to be Dubois' game plan, is just come out quickly, try and bully him from the start. But, whether he can do that or not, Usyk will make use of the counter punch, and then maybe at some point the tide turns and he's the guy on the front foot dominating.
Right, that is the main event. Let's have a little bit of chat at the undercard. As I mentioned, as someone who has bought a ticket to the event, a little bit underwhelming, the undercard, but there are some interesting bouts on there, Henry. What catches the eye?
Yeah, it's pretty uninspiring, is it? But I thought at 9-5, there's probably enough in the price to chance Kevin Lerena against Lawrence Okole. Obviously, Okole was world champion at cruiserweight, but he hasn't always really impressed in his career, was he? He was pretty poor when he lost the title to Chris Billum-Smith. He's now moved up to heavyweight. He didn't really impress prior to that against David Light and Michael Sislak. So I'm not sure. I'm certainly not convinced that Okole heavyweight, because he hasn't fought anyone even half decent. So I think this is quite a big step up. Lerena, certainly isn't any world beater, but he went 12 rounds with Justice Hooney, which is a pretty close fight last year. And, we see Justice Hooney against Fabio Wardley. And if it wasn't for that, stunning last round knockout, Hooney would have completely destroyed Wardley. So I think that's pretty useful form. And, I'm not saying it's a certainty by any means, but I think at 9-5, there might just be a little bit of juice in Lerena's price.
Oh, no love for the sauce, Lawrence Okole there from Henry. What about yourself, Gareth?
I'm struggling to see any great opportunities, but I've got to think Lewis Edmondson's worth a shout against Daniel Lapin. Both of them got 11-0 records, and Edmondson's a sort of 3-1 underdog, I think, maybe even bigger than that. He's beat Dan Aziz pretty recently, hasn't he? So, I sort of see it maybe as closer to a 50-50 fight than the prices are, and maybe he's worth a little look.
Interesting. He's, of course, put forward as the next Usyk, isn't he? His protege, Lapin. So interesting that you're taking him on there. But yeah, it is quite an uninspiring undercard. No, Gareth's certainly not a believer in that. Right. Before we get on to main picks then, selections, I want to throw it out to you, gentlemen. This bout on Saturday night, the rematch between Oleksandr Uysk and Daniel Dubois, is, of course, going to have repercussions in the heavyweight division. It is for undisputed. Usyk is clearly number one. And I put it to you, who is the current top five? And now I'm going to chuck in, or allow you to chuck in, Fury and AJ, because they're both still active. I think they're both still going to fight. I'll give you a little bit of a guide, and you guys out there as well watching in YouTube land, give us your top five as well currently in the heavyweight division. I'll read out the Ring Magazine top 10. Of course, Usyk number one. They've got Fury in at 2, Dubois 3, Parker 4, Ajit Kabayel 5, Anthony Joshua 6, Hrgović 7, Wardley 8, Zhilei Zhang 9, and Martin Bakole 10. So Usyk 1, Dubois 3. I'll throw it to you first, Gareth. Give us your top five.
You know what? I've got it pretty much the same as the Ring, but I'll go with Dubois second and Fury third. Just because Dubois is the guy with the title at the moment, he's in some good form, and I think credit where credit's due. He's the guy challenging for undisputed here. We'll put him at 2 and Fury at 3.
Yeah, the man carrying the momentum as well outside of Dubois is definitely Josie Parker, is in there at 4. What about yourself, Henry?
Yeah, pretty similar. I'd certainly have Usyk 1, clear best, undefeated, going to be undisputed again. Fury 2nd if he comes back. I think he's still probably capable of beating most of the heavyweight if he does return. I'd probably have Caballero 3. I think those wins against Makhmudov, Frank Sanchez, Jody Zhang, pretty good form. Probably Dubois next. He's got the power to beat most in the heavyweight division, but I think he's a little bit short of the elite performers. And then I say Parker, who's certainly taken his career to a new level in his most recent fights. So that'll be my top 5. I think there's probably another 3 or 4 that would beat Joshua on that list, so he can come out of retirement, but I'm not sure he'll be getting anywhere near the top 5.
Yeah, Henry's always been an AJ hater anyway, so don't read too much into that. And what of young Moses Satoma? I was hoping I was going to see him on Saturday night at Wembley. Just quickly, Gareth, what are your thoughts on him? He's the next superstar.
Oh yeah, he's great, isn't he? Banging everyone out at the moment. I probably would have, he's got to be pushing that top 5, but you got to see him against someone better, and we'll get that later this year when he fights Dillian White. So that's sort of the acid test for him at the moment.
Yeah, that is the name to look out for in the future. Right then, Saturday night, Wembley Stadium, the rematch, almost 2 years on since Oleksandr Uysk and Daniel Dubois stepped through the ropes. They go again for undisputed status in the heavyweight division. Henry Hardwicke, what's your best bet on the card?
I think, as I've said, I'm pretty keen on Usyk. I'm going to have a look at how the market goes, and perhaps if Usyk drifted towards 2-5, I might even just back him to win the fight. But I thought 2-1 Usyk by decision would be the best bet on Saturday. I mean, he's clearly the superior fighter. He's beaten Dubois before. He's beaten Joshua twice, Fury twice. Fury certainly was at the peak of the division when he fought him. So I don't really see how there's much way Dubois can win this fight. I don't fancy him at all, really, and I certainly don't like him at 3-1. So yeah, I thought it was a toss up between points and stoppage, but I think at the prices 2-1, I'd probably just side with Usyk stoppage victory. Decision victory even.
Okay, good stuff. And Gareth Freeman joins us as well. Best bets from the big fight on Saturday night. Who are you going for, Gareth?
Yeah, I've got Usyk as well, but I think he stops him again, to be honest. I think this time Dubois will be a bit more sort of proactive coming forward. That probably just plays into Usyk's hands a bit more. And Dubois is kind of one of those fighters where he's all or nothing. His 21 of his 22 wins have been stoppages, and both his losses have come inside the distance. I think Usyk breaks him down sometime from around the 6th round onwards. Dubois will get stopped.
Well, there you go then, both the lads going against the Brit, back the Brit on Saturday night. Let us know in the comments below how you see it going. Do you see it the same? There has been plenty of chat about, what kind of engine does Dubois have? Has he got to get it done early just like he did against Joshua? But 2 votes for the Ukraine on the inside. Just quickly, gents, Usyk wins. We've just seen and heard that Lomachenko's retired. Henry, do you think we're going to see the same here, or will he fight on?
Yeah, I'm not sure, what more there is for him to do, really. I mean, he's going to become if he wins on Saturday, he's going to become a 3-time undisputed champion. He's obviously beaten everyone there is to beat in the heavyweight division, hasn't he? So, short of someone like Moses the Town coming up, but, that would be still quite a long way off. So, I wouldn't be surprised. He's 38 now. I wouldn't be surprised if he called it a day and ended on a high, undefeated on Saturday night.
And the same from you, Gareth. We see another Usyk masterclass. Do you think it'll be the end?
Possibly. He might fancy a bit of a sort of hometown fight in his adopted Wrocław in Poland, or if Fury does come out of retirement and the money's there, why not complete the trilogy? But it could be.
Well, money talks, that is for sure. Right, this has been the Racing Post Ringside. Thank you for watching. Loads of content on the Racing Post YouTube channel this week, including the Sweet Spot with Steve Palmer, tackling the Open Championship. As ever, we've got all your football and horse racing needs covered as well. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe. Gamble responsibly, and we'll see you next time.